everyone. I think a few people more joining, but we'll just can start in the meantime. I'm Artem, the CEO and co-founder of KEWAZO. Hope you can hear me well. I know there is some echo going on. So today we would like to
10 minutes.
do something new, right? We would like to, some of you may have already heard about our solution, lifting robot LIFTBOT for scaffold builders. And today we have a panel with our clients who will just speak and answer most frequently asked questions, right? So before diving into that, to the exciting part, just wanted to remind you a bit more about what LIFTBOT is, what it does, and where it's deployed, its technical parameters. I would like to start with our mission as a company. We work hard on improving the lives of workers worldwide, right? We don't only work in the US, we're a German company, we work in whole Europe, now it's whole North America, and get a lot more requests, probably more requests that we can handle. But improving people's lives, it's what really motivates us as a company. And before talking more about the product, I would like to show you some of the feedback that we heard from our clients.
I do definitely feel the difference in my body. Like, my back's not bothering me as much. LIFTBOT definitely saves me energy, 100%. By the end of the day, I'm not as tired, I'm not as fatigued. My body even feels better. It's actually a really good device.
A lot of boys have said how easy it is to use the LIFTBOT, and they've enjoyed using it as well, to be fair. And they said it's made their lives easier. They haven't got to try and wrap something up and then push it out on the scaffold and wait for it to go down. But with this, you're sending the LIFTBOT up, loading it. The time it's come down, we've unloaded it, sent it back up again, they're loading it straight away. So you're constantly moving. So I think it's worth getting. What it means for me, easy life. Yeah.
So as a worker, I'm not buying it or renting it, so I'm just using it. 2 thumbs up from me, yeah, 100%.
So I think everyone in this business, who is successful, I think it comes with care about the people and actually making life of people easier, because you know that when you care about your people give it back. But we still see that when it comes to methods, how the work is done, it's still heavily manual, right? All of us know that chain lining is still a thing in the industry, right? And in both commercial and industrial projects. So in order to solve this, we came up with LIFTBOT, right? So that the same job can be done with 3 people instead of 10 plus doing it manually, right? And I think this concept of using something in order to transport material is not new to many of you, right? The difference with LIFTBOT is that it's battery powered, it's completely wireless, and it's autonomous, right? So there is as you can see on this video, there is no need for the guy on the ground to keep his button on a finger, finger on the button, and to control the system while it's moving up and down. The worker on the ground can do other activities while the system moves up and down, and the same for the people on the top, right? And as you can see here, as autonomy combined with speed provides you a lot of advantage. But at the same time, when we speak about the differences of LIFTBOT to anything else on the market, we usually underline a bit different component. And when actually clients ask us why we should go for LIFTBOT rather than anything else, we usually answer is because LIFTBOT is deployed for jobs that your today hoists are not going to be used for. So if I ask you guys, if you think about using a hoist for your scaffolding job, right? Lift your hand, how many people think that it only makes sense if it's 100 feet job or taller, right? Think about this, right? Using a hoist for a scaffolding job. So does it need to be 100 feet or taller, or it should be less? What's your opinion? Probably most of you will say that it's a 100 feet tall job or more, so it needs to be quite a volumetric job, right? So what we learned with LIFTBOT is that anything above 30 feet actually makes sense. And the reason for this is because the setup flexibility. So LIFTBOT can be quickly set up just within like 10 minutes. As you can see here, the Rails system comes directly on the scaffold and can be quickly set up just with hands of people. And at the same time, you don't need to change the scaffold design. You don't need to put additional bay in order to accommodate LIFTBOT. You don't need to have additional anchors, right? So this is all like a huge advantage. And once the rails are set up, the setting up LIFTBOT is a really easy part that can be done in minutes with hands of people directly. And it is possible to do it like this because of the two main features. Like first of all, it's battery powered, as I mentioned. So there is no cables whatsoever. On the other hand, you have safety layer represented by software and sensors, which makes sure that all safety critical functions are being constantly monitored. So this means that people cannot do any mistakes. Like they can do mistakes, but the system will not allow them to do anything unsafe. And this enables like really quick training. It just takes us 1 hour to train people on how to use LIFTBOT. And at the same time, it enables autonomy, right? So the system can drive up autonomously. So what it enables in your practical world is that you can have multiple rail locations around the site, and you can just have one unit, and you can just jump this unit as you see fit, right? So you can have multiple rail locations, just one LIFTBOT, and you can just move it around. So, and this is a big advantage, so you don't need to have like a 3 hoist here. You can just have one unit, and you can just move it as you go. So in this sense, when people ask us, what is the difference of LIFTBOT compared to any other traditional hoists, we usually answer the difference is the same as between like a laptop and a personal computer, right? So I didn't come here to this presentation with my personal computer. I left it in my office because my personal computer is too bulky. It needs to have like a lot of space. It needs to have power access, right? But laptop is something battery powered and small, and I can easily carry it. So that's why I brought my laptop here. So speaking about technological features, right, we covered the safety sensors, autonomy, that the system is completely wireless. So the last thing I want to talk about with you today is the data analytics part. So like when LIFTBOT operates, it actually gathers data on how much weight is transported, which height, when this happens. So with this information, you get full transparency of your activities on site. And using this transparency, you can actually like first of all, you know what's happening on your sites without being on site. But at the same time, you can make decisions and you can improve the way how you run your business. Here's just one like simple case of a client on the East Coast. They were building a set of balconies on a building, and this was like 100 feet tall, erect. And so what they did, like they done 2 projects. So for the first time ever, when they utilized LIFTBOT, they didn't know what it is, right? So it took them time to understand it, how to efficiently work with this. So what we saw that they were not that efficient, right? When compared to average performance with LIFTBOT in the industry, they were like 36% less the average. And we have this average because we have multiple units deployed on multiple sites in multiple geographies and industries. So what we know what good looks like, and we can tell you how your performance compares to the industry performance. So when it came to the, like, they looked at this and they understood that, hey, that was not optimal and we needed to do this and this different. So when they did a second job, they actually made sure to outperform it, right? And that showed up on the performance directly. So they were actually above industry average by 20%. So this is just an example of how data helps you to better manage your workforce, your projects, your companies. At the same time, what we see a lot with our clients is that they are able to utilize this data to actually improve their bidding process. Because what happens quite often that when you submit your bids, you're not really sure whether you can provide this performance or not. So people are usually being conservative. So when you have historical data and you know what's your typical performance, you can actually rely on this data in order to submit your future bids, right? So this allows you to actually better plan your future. And obviously, LIFTBOT is not only used for scaffolding. Many of our clients ask if they can utilize it for other applications as well. And this is why we designed a different basket that allows you to transport other types of material. And this goes for anything that your clients may need, right? Around plywood, frames, beams, right? Insulation, anything of this nature. The most frequent questions we hear is a load capacity, right? Because this is how I think the industry thinks, and like when you see a hoist, the first question is like, how much can it lift? LIFTBOT lifts 220 pounds at a time with a speed of 138 feet per minute. And what's important to understand here is that this process is autonomous. So as I mentioned, the system runs autonomously. There is no person on the bottom who constantly pushes a button with a finger and waits for this. As you can see, the guy on the ground is constantly moving. The same with the guys on top. So this enables to have, on average, like 6 trips an hour. If you calculate 220 pounds a trip with 6 trips an hour, we're talking about 1,300 pounds an hour. So if you think about 8 hours working day, we're talking about 10,000 pounds performance. And if you think doing this with 3 people, we usually hear it's a good performance from our clients, right? We hear that, first of all, they don't know what their typical performance per day. They don't know how many pounds their people transport. And when they realize that their people are able to transport 10,000 pounds on average, and we sell much more than that, they're usually impressed. So in terms of the use cases, right, anywhere where you work today, right, commercial jobs, residential jobs, historical buildings, that's your typical applications for LIFTBOTs, right? We do a lot of work in the industrial world as well, but I realize that many people in this room work more in commercial area, and if you have questions about industrial use cases, happy to answer as well. So today we have, at this conference, we have 4 people from our team. 3 of them are here. The rest are building the scaffold in the exhibition hall. So, and the most exciting part today is that we actually have 3 of our clients who will be joining us on a panel, just speaking about, just answering the most frequent questions about LIFTBOT. And they will be moderated by Haider, who is a president of our North America operations. So I would like to welcome on stage Haider Gardner, president of North America for KEWAZO, Scott Holmes, vice president of capital projects at BrandSafway, Jeremy Trask, general manager at Commercial Scaffolding of California, and Matt Petersen, scaffold division manager at SDB. Welcome, guys.
All right, this is on? Okay. So yeah, thanks for the introduction, Artem. It's definitely a pleasure to have your own clients speaking about your product. So it's really a great thing. So gentlemen, thank you very, very much for joining us today at this panel discussion. I hope this is going to be very fruitful for everyone in the audience. Keep in mind, after the panel discussion, we are also going to open the shop for Q&A. So you can ask your questions and you can direct them to our panelists. Because it's always one thing, us speaking about the advantages of the LIFTBOT, right? But it's a whole other thing hearing it firsthand from our clients who use it very often. So thanks for joining us. And let us begin with a brief round of introductions. Scott, if you would start.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Holmes, Vice President of Projects at BrandSafway.
Hi, Jeremy Trask, president for Commercial Scaffold Companies Incorporated. I'm also an adjunct professor for Cal State Dominguez Hills at the OSHA Training Institute.
Morning, Matt Petersen, operations manager for SDB's Scaffold division.
Thank you. So we already briefly touched this point about the weight capacity in the presentation. As you know, LIFTBOT has a 220-pound weight capacity, and people in the industry, they're usually skeptical when they hear this number, right? So, gentlemen, tell me, is 220 pounds enough? Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, so we've done some analytics and some evaluation on a couple of the other items or products that we have in our fleet in comparison, right? Beta hoist, et cetera. The 220, while it's about a third of what a beta hoist has for capacity, given the speed and the cycle time and the mobility of the particular unit, we can move as much, if not more than, the same amount of weight that a beta can hoist in the same period of time, in the same shift, 8 hour, 10 hour, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, we're looking for a typical crew size, and everyone's going to operate a little bit. Not me. Everyone's going to operate a little bit different in terms of the travel and the efforts that they put forward with the equipment they're using. But ultimately, if you're going to lift, let's say 8,000 to 10,000 pounds of scaffold a day, it doesn't really matter if it's going up in 30 or 40 trips or 100 trips. We're still trying to get rapid mobility of this lift up and down over and over again. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that? Or?
I'll sentimize what these gentlemen said. I mean, I know in our particular initial project case here, we were initially pretty concerned just from the dismantle aspect of things, right? We didn't use it on the installation of the job, but on the dismantle, obviously, we're looking for that high production of getting, and we assumed we would flood the unit basically, right, and end up stockpiling too much material. But with that autonomy that Artem mentioned earlier, it proved very successful in keeping up with the load demand.
Thank you. So we spoke about the speed. That's one of the advantages. In talking about advantages, what other advantages do you see in the LIFTBOT system? Scott, if you want to start us there.
Yeah. So I think we're all going to say about the same thing here, but the portability and the accessibility of the unit is far better than some of the other products that not only do we have in our fleet, but that are available out there in the market. It doesn't require 220 electric. It has a small footprint. It is myself and one other person could manhandle the unit. We can put multiple masts up for setup and just move the single drive unit as we need to move it. So it's really beneficial in terms of the efficiency that you gain when you're doing larger. Any of us can put up 30 or 40 foot tall scaffold and you can beat the system. Without question, you can beat the system. If you're talking about 100, 120, 150, and you're talking about something the size of this room or longer in terms of a building facade or something of that nature, you're going to have the ability to gain economies. You're going to have the ability to move that particular system in a very efficient manner, and that's where the benefit comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day with scaffolds, rapid use is obviously important, and we've evaluated a variety of lifts through the years and incorporated a few different techniques of hoisting equipment, both mechanically and through manual means. At the end of the day, a lot of lifts on the market, they are a little prohibitive to set up in terms of time. 30 minutes or an hour may not seem like much, but it's a lifetime when you got 3, 4, 5, a dozen or more people standing around waiting for a lift to be set up and relocated. So not having cables, not having power access, is definitely a benefit on the KEWAZO lift side of things.
Yeah, and I think the KEWAZO team, right, you guys have absolutely add a lot of value to that. This first time using it for us, weren't real sure where to apply it that would be most efficient, right? But KEWAZO offered a lot of support in that aspect of things, outlining where we should put those masts, right, and how many units we should utilize. We ended up purchasing one unit and renting the other, and had enough mast section as well to have that portability aspect of things. But I think risk. Risk management is also another big advantage here too, right? Removing more bodies out of that chain line. That's just, it's an inherently dangerous industry that we work in, obviously. So taking a body out of that equation is going to save us all a lot of pain and suffering and money at the end of the day, right?
Thank you. So we basically spoke about the set of flexibility as an advantage, the speed, removing risk, right? Every body that you can take out of the chain line that's less hazards that you're exposing your teams to. So if you think about all these advantages, when you just first saw LIFTBOT, were those advantages clear from the start? How was the process of finding that out?
Yeah, I think like probably a lot of you guys, I was pretty skeptical myself. And by the way, I'm getting no benefit. I don't think Scott or anybody here is getting any benefit from these conversations personally out of the KEWAZO team here, other than just communicating some of the things that we've seen in terms of how this lift has worked for us. And between being new technology, a new company, and also a new way of doing things with lithium battery access, obviously there's a lot of questions surrounding whether or not it can perform, whether it can keep up, and whether it's durable enough to live its life cycle that it should for you. And so far that's been proven to be not as big of a concern as initially suspected. We've done some projects in Las Vegas as an initial pilot program that was successful. And of course, this lift isn't beneficial for every single scaffold project that you're going to encounter out there. Certainly projects that are of any significant height, projects that are not necessarily really complex in their design, a lot of step in, steps out, and stuff of that nature. This lift does have those benefits that are there. So identifying those projects, getting a well-trained crew that gets familiar with this equipment is certainly key in order to make it successful. There's definitely a learning curve there, but it's certainly something that can be overcome.
So you had a pilot project first in Las Vegas?
Yeah, we had a couple pilot projects that we tested this thing on because the skepticism runs high. I mean, we're in a trade craft that's been around for hundreds of years and it's been always done the same way. So here we are trying to teach a bunch of people that are accustomed to doing things a certain way, a different way of looking at a project. And that can be challenging. But once you do get used to this and you can identify successfully what projects the lift is most beneficial on, it starts to make a lot more sense.
Matt, what were your first thoughts when you initially got the LIFTBOT on site or heard about the idea?
Yeah, even prior to that, right? When some folks on my team pitched the idea of this unit to me, I was pretty skeptical. We own some of the other conventional lifts and don't use them very often, to be completely honest, because they're the restrictions, right? When it comes to permanent power requirements and the time it takes to set up and the space it takes to do that as well. But namely the cost, I would say, was a big downfall for me, right? But we pulled trigger on it anyway. We got into it, and it quickly proved itself worthwhile to us, for sure.
So in your case, it was a little bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah,
to a certain degree.
absolutely. I think for all of us it was.
Yep.
Talking about cost, I think it's everyone's favorite topic in the room. So let's address that. I think as many of you might have heard, LIFTBOT is more expensive than anything else there is in the market. So gentlemen, my question to you, why does it still make sense?
Well, cost is a factor, and everything we do in business is related to cost somehow, some way, and revenues that are generated for that. So at the end of the day, when we look at something like this, if we can offset those costs and look at this device or anything that we do as being a profit generator, it of course makes sense. I certainly wouldn't have entertained an item like this unless I could look forward long-term and say, okay, this will not only cover the cost and expense of the equipment itself, but also help save us time and money in the long term. And that's direct costs associated with project savings month to month. And then there's a lot of other indirect costs I know we're going to be touching on here in terms of the obvious benefits of safety and things like that, having left people up on the equipment passing material around. Cost is definitely a factor, but your labor is a factor of that cost. So it's a matter of determining, okay, for a particular project, what's my labor savings, and does that labor savings offset and then some the cost of this lift? It's a math equation at the end of the day.
For us, it's not only is it a cost benefit if we can, shave head count and still estimate or sell at our current sell rates, right? but it also allows the premium scaffold erectors that we have, let's say we have 50, 100, 200 in any given geographic location, it allows us to work with them, because as everybody knows, when you concentrically get away from the talent pool in that particular area, it takes a toll on all of your premium scaffold erectors and what they have to teach and educate the other folks to do on the site, and that all is part of efficiency being taken away from the equation. In addition to that, so if we can take a 140-foot tall scaffold as an example, again, this is not a tool that it works in every application. But if we can take a large scaffold like that with a lot of repetition, and instead of 10, 12 people in a chain line or 10, 12 people in that scaffold gang, change it to 3 or 4 and the KEWAZO LIFTBOT, we can certainly turn and convert those man hours into rental costs, or in our case, CapEx spend, to derive benefit. And then finally, it also becomes a selling aspect to our customers. So they say, well, I have to use a 90-ton rough terrain picker to support you in your work with insulation coatings and scaffolding in this particular vertical vessel. We've actually found where we were able to remove those types of crane support elements away from the projects and use KEWAZO as the tool to support our craft, which is from a total installed value or total installed cost to the client. That's a definite benefit that helps sell the work.
Matt, anything you would like to add? No, took about everything.
Sorry, Matt.
So much you could say, I guess.
Talked about efficiency, right? How did you actually measure efficiency gains with the LIFTBOT?
So in our case, obviously, we had a known, again, we installed the scaffolding with traditional methods, right? All manual at that point. So we obviously had an expected dismantle period, right? And the number of people we were going to need, the duration it was going to take. So it was easy for us in this trial project to see that after utilizing it, right? And we were quickly getting that data analytics sent to us on a daily basis, right? Seeing, not initially, 10,000 pounds per day or per shift, but very quickly worked up to that, 10,000 plus per shift, right? And that was extremely helpful. But overall, we saw about a 30% savings to our labor expectations for this project.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks. Scott, I think you mentioned a little bit about it's not a tool for every single job, right? There's no one size fits it all. What would you say from your side, where does LIFTBOT fit best, and how often do you use it?
No problem. So we've purchased 5 units. We have 4 of them deployed and active currently. One of them is not, looking for a home. But so that should tell you something a little bit about utilization, right? At the end of the day, a lot of the folks in this room are rental companies just as much as we are labor providers. So that utilization, that high utilization matters, especially if somebody else is renting it. But what we found is that you can derive benefit internally. We can derive benefit externally. We can utilize it as a rental revenue stream on the job site if we are not the insulator or coater or fireproofer, et cetera, roofer in the commercial space, et cetera. There is benefit there to be had as well. And at the end of the day, we have a pretty high utilization of the equipment that we have purchased. And in most cases, it has been a tremendous use case to demonstrate that we are helping our aging craft continue, right? So we're taking fatigue issues out of the way. I would be remiss if I didn't bring some of the safety benefit into the discussion, Hyder. Just the line of sight potential, the dropped object potential, all of those, the number of touches that the men and women for us do on large capital work, when you have 2 million pieces of scaffold on a project, is unbelievable, the amount of touches that those men and women do on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. And if we can help them with fatigue and things of that nature, as well as get them the support that they need in other areas, we feel like it's going to be a benefit long term.
Thank you. You mentioned also before.
Up to 30, 40 feet, not much, but then when you start there, that's when the benefits kick in, the efficiency gains, right? The higher you go, the more efficiency. Jeremy, is there a rule of thumb? Let's say if you have a certain amount of people in the chain line, well, that's a use case for LIFTBOT. How do you perceive it?
Yeah, I think everyone's going to operate a little differently in that regard, whether or not you're using some gin wheels up there to help pass your material, double passing or single passing, in other words, having a guy on every single level. So consequently, the specific heights that you might find this equipment beneficial on will probably vary by individual organization. For us, we've seemed to find a lot more benefit on it on sites like water towers, cell towers. Once we're dealing with heights 50, 60 feet and above, we don't need a ton of lateral movement across a structure, or if we do, the structure is fairly flat and easily accessible where we can set up multiple towers in a line and then kind of leapfrog those towers as we go down an elevation. I think some might find benefits to this lift on lower heights, and some of that might also work within your manpower demands, meaning if you're shorthanded across the board and you start to see needs to have conservation of labor on a particular site, then you can help backfill this equipment to support that labor force that you have.
Thank you. Now, speaking a little bit of the product itself, the LIFTBOT, it is made out of aluminum, mainly to keep it lightweight. And people might be skeptical about the durability. So from your experience, how did that aluminum work out?
What are you saying about the scaffold guys? Are we kind of rough on stuff sometimes?
Did you break
We
it?
tend to beat our equipment up, drop it here and there, run it over with the truck, perhaps. The carriage itself is obviously aluminum, and like most materials, there's a balance here between the weight of the equipment itself and the durability of the equipment. Thus far, we haven't personally seen much of an issue in terms of the aluminum being a negative detriment to that durability. It's suffered its life cycle pretty good so far. We'll see how the next couple of years start going with this thing, but I don't anticipate any issues, to be honest with you.
So we've had ours for about a year, and we have them in some clean environments. We have them in some pretty nasty environments, and to this point, almost a year now, we've had some of these units deployed, and we haven't seen any wear and tear failures from the aluminum construction.
And lastly, let's talk about service support for the LIFTBOT versus other solutions, if you made that experience. From your side, dealing with KEWAZO service support, how was that experience for you?
Yeah, I know for at least me personally, I know there's been times where, because of the analytics and the reporting and the status of this bot, these guys in Houston have become aware of certain issues that my teams have experienced in other divisions before I even personally became aware of those specific problems. They're calling me up going, hey, it looks like you got a sensor malfunction on this particular gate. What do you guys need? I mean, they've been very, very helpful across the board, and Heither and his team and all the trainers have never had an issue with jumping on a plane within the same day and coming out to us and not even just diagnose issues, but train. I mean, the follow-up and support has been impressive, overwhelming at times, where it's like, guys, calm down, we got it, thank you, we're good.
We want to make sure everything's all right.
Yeah, I think even from the point of integration, right? I mentioned earlier, them coming out and helping us. I think before we were on site with it, but also sending out a KEWAZO employee to help us and help our crews understand how to use this efficiently, right? Again, we're taking a bunch of folks that aren't really used to using this type of technology, right, to do their work. They'd prefer almost to do it manually just because that's the way they know it and they believe that that's the fastest. But with the help of the KEWAZO team, they spent a better part of a week out there with our guys and really help them understand that this is a great benefit to them. It's going to save them a lot of pain and suffering over time. When we experienced issues, which was very, very minimal on our project over the several months that it was utilized, extremely fast response times, and sent the replacement parts if we didn't already have them to get that stuff repaired quickly. It was minimal downtime.
I'll just say this, to add to what the gentleman said, the spare parts kit that you get with the unit also is extremely helpful, right? So they may or may not have 100 years of scaffold experience erecting and dismantling scaffolds, but they know from being integral in the design and creation of their pieces of equipment, where the high wear points are, where the things that are most likely to fail are, and they populate a spare parts kit with those particular components, and they ship them to the site as well.
Thank you for the insights, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, everyone.